Hello everybody, welcome to tonight's Sunday service. It's a solo outing tonight for me. Drew and Spence will be back on the show soon, but it's just life is getting in the way at the moment. So I'm here. What more do you want? Well, clearly they want the other two because they keep asking, where are they? So anyway, let's we're going to crack on with some updates on projects tonight. This is a short show, mercifully. And that's because it's Doctor Who tonight at 7:30. I just want to get rid of Chris Chibnall for once and for all, actually. So we are. His mum will be on the phone to me, so dissing my son. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we'll do some catch up on some projects tonight, and perhaps even do a little one as well. So what have we got here? Those of you with long memories, I may remember this. Do you know what? If I'm totally honest with you, what with COVID and everything, I completely forgot about this. And when I picked up the box today, and I thought, oh yeah, I've got to finish this off, haven't I? So yeah. So what needs to be done on it? Not much, actually. This is one of those projects where this is the Italy 24 scale Jeep. This is one of those projects where it's been languishing in the box for the last couple of months. I've come back to it. I've looked at it, and I thought, well, that's it. We can finish this off, surely. So I think probably an evening's work, if that, is going to get this one pretty much done and dusted. So yeah, this was. I mean, I enjoyed this. There was nothing wrong with the kit. It was good fun. I do like, I've said before, I do like building vintage Italy kits. And I do like venturing into other scales as well. So having built some 35th scale and 72nd/76 scale Jeeps in the past, to actually build one in 24th scale, which is a bit unusual, has been great fun. And yeah, it just everything, all the sub assemblies are all painted here. It just requires that final push to get it over the finishing line. So might do that this week. Well, I will do that this week. We're going to get this one finished off once and for all. So we've still got all the masking on the windscreen and everything. So we are going to get this one done, I think. I've got the dashboard there as well. Oh, it's frustrating when you find a model and you don't know why you didn't get around to finishing it, but it's sitting there resolutely unfinished. We've got the wheels, which just require a little bit of extra paintwork on them, but not much. They're all nice and dusty. So, right, we will endeavour to finish this one off this week. Hopefully by Sunday, the 30th of October, that Jeep will be finished. Hopefully before then, actually. Good news is I've got a week off now. But I need a week off because frankly, my brain has atrophied in the last few weeks since having COVID and recovering COVID. I know I turn this into, me having yet another COVID sob story, kind of, me and my COVID, but it has been really, it's taken the wind out of my sails. Absolutely. So I'm taking a week off to just recover, essentially. But what else are we going to do tonight? Well, we're going to have a quick look at the comments. Like I said, this is going to be a short show tonight, so we're not going to keep you lot bored. And like I say, and the other thing is, of course, we could have done a 7:30 show tonight, but a lot of you have been wanting to watch Doctor Who, so public service. So let's see who's here. We've got you got Tony Surridge who says, "Is anybody there?" Don't know. MF Doomer TV. Hello. Mark Ryan, Dougal McWiggle, Dave Murray, Nick Brown, Rob Monfee. I'll do, Rob. So we'll look now. Adam Cooper, Greg Woodbridge, Ian Rusco, Juan Francisco Molinido, Ian Goldstraw, Greg Wibbs. He says, one of my favorite modeling podcasts. That's very kind of you, Greg. But we need to know who your favorite one is. No, I'm joking. Rob Monfee says Italeri Jeep. Yes, it is. It's the 24 scale Italeri Jeep, Rob. Jan Volek says, evening, JM. Hope that some of the lingering symptoms are disappearing. Yeah, they are, but it's like carrying a lead weight behind you, I think is the best way of describing it. Downwards to evening, everybody. David Ross says, he says, hi, JM, hope you're feeling better. From Inverness, Scotland. I know Inverness quite well. Lovely place. Hobby Time says, hi, guys. Steve Moore says, evening all. Jared Wilkinson says, good to have any sort of show back. Well, that's very kind of you, Jared. And Sean Smith says, hi, everyone. And MF Doomer, he says, they're building the Meng A7V and 35th scale with full interior. Despite it being a great kit, apparently Mang thought that the engine was not necessary. Now, Uncle Nightshift built that one recently, and he did an absolutely bang-up job on that. So, in fact, I've got to play catch-up on Nightshift at some stage because I just haven't been watching YouTube videos. It's been a blur of Star Wars and the Orville, quite frankly. So, right, let's crack on because we've only got literally about another 25 minutes of this, or for you people, thankfully, only another 25 minutes of this. So let's go back to this, shall we? Because we're going to do some actual modeling on this tonight. And I showed this to you the other week. This was one of the Airfix Collectors Series 54mm figures, or 32nd scale in old money. And this is an actual vintage boxing from the 1970s. We did talk about this on the show, and I said that I love the Airfix 54mm figures that they did. And I especially like the ones that came on horseback that were all boxed in this white packaging. I just think this is classy, and this was clearly Airfix trying to get in on the Hysterex craze of the early part of the 1970s. But I just think these are fabulous. I'd love to see these come back. I really would. If they could come back in like Ersatz packaging, even better. But old George Washington with his wooden teeth. So where are we with this as a project? Well, again, this is one of these things that we're not that far off from really kind of completing it. I had been doing some seam cleaning on the horse, and somebody's going to tell me the name of the horse in a minute, so because I've forgotten. And we've also got, can't find the horse's head, probably in a mafioso's bed or something. There we go. We've got the horse's head to clean up and a few other bits and pieces. So we're going to do some of that tonight. Makes a change to a figure on this show as well. However, we are going to do, back by popular demand, we are going to talk about black super glue. You can go out and buy it, or you can be like me and be cheap and make your own. So we're going to make black super glue tonight, and that consists of, this is some industrial grade super glue that I got off of eBay. This was recommended to me by Spencer. So we're going to blob some of that in a jam jar lid, like so. There we go. Lovely. That's fine. Then we are going to mix into that some baby powder, like so. Let's just get some of that on the... So what the baby powder does is it acts as a kind of like a... It just bulks it out a bit more. So we can mix that all up together like that. like so. Then, secret ingredient. This is some Mr. Goodness me. This is some Mr. Surfacer Black. When you can get the lid off. Always untighten your lids before you go live. Top tip there. So we've got some Mr. Surfacer Black here, and we're just going to add a drop to this mix. Although that appears to be seems to be a bit runny, this. Let's get a cotton bud. Deal with that. That's better. So we're just going to add literally, you just want to add enough to tint it, that's all. And then what we're going to do, try and get the lid back on again. Then we're just going to get a cocktail stick and we're going to mix it all together very quickly, because this will start to go off quite rapidly. It will start setting quite rapidly. So there we go. So then all we're going to do is I'm going to treat these gaps here, because it's going to probably be easier to fill these, then sand them, then do some remedial work on them afterwards, rather than trying to sand them smooth, get rid of any gaps, and then go in that way, doing it that way around essentially. So you can do this with pretty much any super glue, but I would avoid some of the really, really runny stuff, like the pack I bought down in Poundland, which was so runny that it literally kind of like goes out the nozzle and instantly sticks your fingers to the bottle. So you want something that's a little bit more, bit less viscous, a little bit more thicker. But I gotta say, I'm always saying on this show, you know, we do talk about this every now and then, about having you have a change of pace for your modeling. And I do find that occasionally dipping into and doing a figure is actually really quite rewarding. Now, I'm not going to bother too much about tidying up down here, because that's literally his bum. So yeah, we're not going to worry too much about that. But we're just going to deal with these seams here, and then I think we've got just a tiny hairline one there, which we're going to fill as well. Now you're thinking, why are you doing, why super glue? What on earth is this all about? Well, you could use model filler, nothing wrong with using model filler, but the thing about model filler is you got to wait for it to dry. You got to wait for it to cure. You got to wait for it to dry and cure. There we go. Get in the right order. And that just slows down modeling. That's tedious. I don't want to do that. I want to crack on with things. And the good thing about using super glue is it does enable you to start attacking joins and seams in a fraction of the time it takes for filler to dry. And also it is much more hardy. Given time, it will dry of its own accord as hard as plastic. So it's brilliant for these kinds of tasks. We've had this discussion on this show before about people say, what's the best kind of filler? Well, I don't think there is a one size fits all filler, because I use different types of filling mediums for different jobs. So in this instance, in order to do this, I'll use super glue. It's the quickest, most efficient way of doing it, and I just think that's, you know, that works for me. And this works in so many modeling situations where you just need to get some filling done, and bang, you're off on, you know, onto the next task. Whereas there are other situations where I would probably use conventional model filler, or I would use Milliput, or I would use one of the water-based putties to do certain kinds of bridging and stuff like that. So it's, you know, I genuinely don't think that there is a, like I say, a one-size-fits-all solution to filling. For me, a lot of my filling tasks can be done using this. So that's what I'm using here at the moment. So there we go. So we'll let I need to say Shakespeare. Close enough. We'll let George's horse rest for a moment, and we've still got some more filling to do. So let's zoom in a bit, shall we? And I think what we'll try and do is we'll try and adjust the gamma as well, because this is a little bit washed out. And let's have a look. Filters, color correction. No, let's have a look. There we go. Brightness. No, too much. Contrast. Too much. Defaults. No, we won't worry about that for now. Bing. Right, so I'm going to fill the saddle, and that's going to require quite a bit of filling because there are some inconsistencies in the surface here. We've also got a little bit of texture on this. Now, I'm just going to say on this is probably one of those situations where actually a proper model filler probably would be a little bit better. Something that you can stipple on and then kind of like, you know, dab it in order, stipple it rather, to re-establish the texture similar to the saddle. But I'm not going to do that right now because I just want to get I want to get these seams dealt with. In fact, we are going to have to use some more super glue. And in fact, I think this super glue is getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I got to say, it speaks volumes for its quality, that it's still able to do the job. There we go, that's better. And I will come back to attending to your questions in a second, but we'll just get this. Oh, that's lovely, that is. Oh, super. That's a really nice consistency. So we'll just fill those there, like so. And we'll get that one done there as well. Now, talking of Hysterex, I did mention to you on the show a couple of weeks ago that I did actually buy my first Hysterex kit a couple of years back for my birthday. My mum bought it for me. Thank you, Mum, if you're watching tonight. And she's recovering from COVID as well, but she didn't catch it off of me. So there we go. And yeah, I got a Hysterex kit. I'll try and drag it out at some stage for one of the shows. Yeah, you need a PhD in history to build those things because their instructions are very vague. I think it's a good way of putting it. Beautiful kits, but goodness me, they really do require you to have an intimate knowledge of the subject matter, but not insurmountable, and you get to learn something at the same time. Now, George's pants here, or his trousers, but he's American, so I'm going to use the term pants. And I am going to deal with the seam here a bit, although obviously there would have been a seam on the real things. Incidentally, interesting historical footnote. And I read an article a few years ago, and it was about historians were questioning what kind of accent would George Washington have had? Because this was, you know, right on top of the beginnings of the American Revolution. And there was a general consensus that early in the British colonial rule of the Americas, that a lot of the people who were involved in the War of Independence, including George Washington, would have had British accents. So have a think about that. They don't know for sure, but they think that, they think they would have. Which, when you think about it, the American War of Independence was essentially one big English or one big British Civil War. But anyway, that's a thing for the history buffs. But yeah, we've done is we'll do that, and then we'll have one more. Let's just put that in the box there for a second. What else needs filling and filing here? The horse's head. No, that's a single piece, so that just requires scraping, which we'll do in a second. And what have we got left to put on the model? Not much. Yeah, actually, I'm just having a look at we've got the horse's ears and things there, but that's been ingeniously done in a way that it follows a natural seam line. So I think we can get away with not doing anything on that. We'll trim it anyway. Right, let's play catch up on some comments here for a second, and let's see what you lot are talking about. Right, Dan Wood says, can you recommend a varnish for gloss aircraft? I use VMS satin varnish for matte aircraft, so not sure. Oh, hello compressor. I'm not sure what to use for stuff like the red arrows to stop them looking like toys. Right, I would seriously suggest something like Mr. Color GX113. That's a UV cut varnishes. There it is. Good stuff. That they do them in a that's the flat. They do them in gloss. You can mix them together. Failing that, there is, I don't think I've got any actually to hand here. Bear with me a sec. Oops-a-daisy. Tamiya X22 Clear, that's what Jen Wright uses. She swears by it. They also do a semi-gloss as well. These are pretty much bomb-proof, the Tamiya ones. So you can mix them with their own thinners. You can mix with isopropyl alcohol. You can mix them with, Mr. Color thinners, all those kinds of things with lacquer thinners. But I would say actually for ease of use and also accessibility, I would go for the Tamiya varnishes. You really can't go wrong with them. They're very good. And we'll probably do a show at some stage where we're going to do some varnishing. So yeah, I go with that, Dan. I really would. What else have we got here? We've got Bill Clark Gleaming. Tony Surridge says Orville. You like? Yes, yeah, I do like the Orville. I think it's great. I think it's it starts off being a bit of a kind of like obviously a Star Trek spoof, but then it becomes its own thing. And by the end of the first season, it's actually turning into a very good Star Trek, just not called Star Trek. That's the bizarre thing. But also like the fact that they did use a model for the main ship as well. So yeah, it's a fun old show. And Steve Moore says, sorry to say, I had COVID on December 19 before officially in the UK, and I'm still suffering side effects now. Yeah, it's what they call long COVID. Theron Hampton says, hello from Denver, Colorado. Hello, Theron. Sean Smith says, I'm going for number 4 injection this coming Friday. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I would have had my booster jab the other week, but I was one day still within the quarantine period for going to the surgery. So, never mind. Steve Moore says, the the MiG slow set black CA says it has rubber in it. Yeah, it's got something in it which just impedes the drying time. I mean, these will this will have a certain amount of this will dry quite slowly relative to super glues, but you can also always do what I do, which is cheat and then put some accelerator on it. But but that's still going to be quicker than using ordinary filler. And then what we got here, Jared says, bought some VMS CA glue filler from the scale model shed for this purposes. The black tinting is a great JM original tip. Thanks, Jared. That's not my idea. I stole that from somebody else. Most, i.e. all, the ideas that I mention, I've always stolen them off somebody else. Goodness me. You know, yeah, Peter Roxy says, hello, everyone. JM, you nearly caught me out at the early start. Yeah, we got an early start tonight, Peter, because it's the Doctor Who finale tonight. So Peter Roxy says, yeah, he says, because of Doctor Who, you are kidding me, right? It's terrible these days. It is terrible, Peter. It's a shame, right? We're just going to go up. Yeah, we're going to go off on a 5-minute Doctor Who rant now, right? Okay, they've all walked out of the control room. I love Jodie Whittaker. I think she's great. I think she's an absolutely fabulous actress, and she's got a real kind of spark and kind of like, you know, just a fantastic personality on screen. But the writing is terrible, really. It's just been universally awful under her tenure. No, sorry, with her tenure rather. And even bringing back, you know, the Sea Devils. Oh, the Sea Devils. I want the Sea Devils to come back since the show was rebooted 17 years ago. 17 years ago. And they look fabulous. They're just the design of them, the extra animation they put into the faces. The Sea Devils look great, but the episode was awful. It was just, and it's a shame because the production values are absolutely top notch these days. You know, the visual effects are beyond superlative. But that one thing that used to get Who out of a hole when they didn't have the budgets and they didn't have the technology was the writing. And for some reason, the writing has gone out the window. It's a shame. Perhaps it's pandering. Perhaps it's catering for different audiences these days that want everything to be, you know, instant. I don't know. Anyway, you know, it's a tricky one. Dave Fleming says, I'd like a filler with the consistency of plasticine that hardens and grabs the plastic. Well, yeah, I'm sure there is something out there like that, Dave. There's probably some kind of builder's putty, not putty, but some kind of builder's putty like that. Yeah, I know what you mean. You want something almost like a UV curing thing, so you can kind of like apply it, and it's quite plasticine-ish up until the point where you then zap it with UV light, and then it sets. I'm sure there is something out there like that. And let's have a look. Sean Smith says, not the only one. I'm eating my dinner and drinking a nice Côtes de Rhône, I think that's a wine, watching this. Okay. VMS flat varnishes are superb. It's all I use now. Yeah, I like the VMS flat varnishes. I'm not quite sure about the glosses, but you know, we'll see. Tony Surridge says Meng did a re-release of the A7V with resin engine, and it's being re-released soon. Brilliant. Okie dokie. Yohav Efrati says, hi Jonathan, great to see you broadcasting. Well, that's very kind of you, Yohav. You know, minority of one there, but thank you very much. And Dave says the black CA Drew discovered years ago had rubber. Yeah, absolutely. Dave Fleming said, this is tenuous, Dave. Doctor Who gave me COVID. Quite sure I caught it watching David Tennant filming in Bristol on May, or maybe the pub afterwards. I think it was the pub afterwards, Dave, frankly. And what else we got here? Yeah, a lot of people there don't like Doctor Who. So, and Travis Thompson says, can recommend the SMS gloss varnish. It's all I use now. So, okay. I say I've got the VMS. I think he means I've got the VMS gloss here. Now, that's the satin. I've got the VMS gloss. I haven't got around to using it. Like so much of this splendid array of things here, I've just never got around to using it. but we will do it at some stage. But right, let's see how these. How is this? Yeah, it's still a bit tacky. So we'll do a bit more. We'll do a bit more on some other odds and ends on this. So we will deal with his main and other things. Ouch. And I've got the Airfix Pikeman is up there on the shelf of doom there, which I'm still kind of like faffing around with. But honestly, those 54mm figures are absolutely brilliant. And as I said, I would like to see them come back at some stage. So there you go. When Airfix on their Facebook page say, what would you like to see come back? Flood it with requests for the 54mm collector series, and then I'll probably get it in the neck for suggesting it. But yeah, I love them. I think they're great. And that's the weird thing is, despite the fact that 35th scale has taken over as the military scale in many things, the collectors figures and some of the resin stuff and things like that, they are still doing them to the traditional model soldier scale of 54mm or 32nd scale. So it's a weird one. It's not. It still exists as a military scale, just not for kind of vehicles these days. But yeah, that's a weird one. That right. We've got the horsey here, and he's got a great big seam down the middle. So we'll scrape that off bit by bit. Oh, I love that sound. I do love a good scrape. I think that's what they call adzing, isn't it? So, Scale Model World in a couple of weeks' time. I'm hoping to attend, but hoping is a movable feast at the moment with kind of COVID and health issues. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. Would be nice to be there and see you all, but we're just got to kind of wait to see what the situation is, quite frankly. But yeah, would be nice to go. Drew won't be going. He's decided to give it a miss this year, but I am scheduled to be there, probably spending the weekend doing demos with the hobby company. So fingers crossed, I will be there. And then at the end of November, in fact, it's the final Sunday in November. It is the Bristol Model Soldier Society have their bugle call show, which is held at the, can't think what the school is. It's the big secondary comprehensive in Nailsea, just over the hill from here. And so I'm looking forward to going to that as well, even though it does clash with my kind of end of November walk, my first day of Advent walk, I call it. But we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can number crunch. Let's just get the last of these seams done, and I've just got to answer some fan mail, because people do like pinging me when I'm live and then asking me questions. So bear with. And we're hoping very soon, very soon, to get our hands on the Tamiya Comet in 35th scale and the F-35 as well. So fingers crossed, we should be able to give you some first-hand impressions of both of those. I got to say, of the two, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Comet. for obvious reasons, because of my years building the Airfix one. Sorry, building the Matchbox one rather. And I think a mainstream Comet has been long overdue. I think it was Bronco did one, but no, I think a Tamiya one is going to be eminently more buildable and more widely available as well. There you go. I've just used that black super glue mix to glue the main in place there. He said, roughly, lols. There we go. Yeah, that's fine. And then we'll check the fit against the head and the neck, and that's perfect. So what I tend to do in a situation like this, I've tacked it in place with some super glue. So I'm just trying to get tacked it in place with some super glue. And then what I'm going to do is weld it in place with some Tamiya extra thin, which is getting really thin here. And I'm keeping an eye on the time here, folks, because I know you're all so desperate to go and watch Doctor Who. So there we go. Perfect. There we go. All right, let's have a look at some of the fan mail here for a second. Alan Richardson says, I had the Bengal Lancer back in the day. I had the Bengal Lancer as well, Alan. And I tell you what, I'd love to build they did a 1/12 scale one as well. I would love to build that 1/12 scale Bengal Lancer. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Downward says, is the Mr. Surfacer in the super glue mix just for visual help? Or does it help it grip or something? No, it's just a visual thing, Dan. It just means when you're sanding it back, you can see it, and it's just visual, honestly. Steve Moore says, don't forget there's lemon drizzle to be had at Scale Model 1. Yeah, I could throw my morals out the window for some lemon drizzle cake, I can tell you. Just make a look. Wayne A. Beatty says, as part of #Airfix Autumn, I'm working on a 1/24 scale Stuka as well as a 48 scale Bristol blend. That's the spirit. Don't forget, you've still got about another 6 weeks to build something for our Airfix Autumn group therapy. I don't know what we call it, but yeah, you got another 6 weeks or so to just to build something. It doesn't matter if you don't finish it, just as long as you've started something. I think this is one of the things we often forget, is that rather than people not building, we'd rather people start something even if they don't finish it. As long as you're actually there is more to be had from the going through the process of building a model, even if you're not finishing it, even if you only half start it, even if you're only clipping some bits off of sprues and gluing a few bits and pieces. There's all manner of stuff that you can do. It just keeps this moving, and it keeps your motor skills moving as well. So yeah, don't worry if you can't finish it. Don't worry if you can't finish it within a deadline, or if you start it and then 6 months later you go back to it and you're still picking at it. It is better that you're actually doing something than not doing something. There's a famous saying about there is no nutritional value in a cabbage. And it's like, well, that's patently untrue. Of course there is nutritional value in a cabbage, but there's no nutritional value in a cabbage if you grow it, but then you don't eat it. And it's the same with modeling. You've got to do something in order to keep the mental and the physical kind of like muscles going. So let's have a look. Dave Fleming says you can use powdered pigment instead of Mr. Surfacer. You can do, Dave. Like I say, I've tried doing that with some of the Vallejo and the COVID brain fog. I just, honestly, my brain, they're in front of me. AK. I tried doing it with some of their stuff. Some of them work, some of them don't. The thing I find about powders, I know I've got talcum powder here, but baby powder rather, but some of the thing about powders is that they can just be a bit of a nuisance to kind of, you know, you're cleaning up after them. So, you know, it's black pigment powder gets everywhere. It, don't like it. And Dan Wood says, he says, when I can get the comment up here, he says, I'm doing the new Airfix 76 Meteor. My word, this is one hell of a stunning kit. Yeah, I've seen quite a few people like that, have been liking that, and they especially like the plastic it has been molded in. So fingers crossed, you know, I know people have had issues sometimes with some of the plastic that Airfix use, but yeah, I'm seeing a lot of good stuff about the Meteor, and it is. I'm going to be biased here. Yeah, I'm going to be biased. It's a beautiful kit. I'm allowed to do that, and just playing some catch up here on some private messages, which will. No, I don't know what's going on there. Right, we're up to, that's it, folks. I'm afraid that is the cutoff point for tonight, because I need to go and get supper on the go and watch some Doctor Who. Then I've got to prep for my other show, because for the next week I'm going to be doing nightly ghost stories on my other show. So pop along and watch that if you want. Don't watch it. But yeah, we're doing that nightly this week for the old Halloween. And in fact, on next Sunday, I'm scheduled to be doing a recording when I'm on the steam train of Railway Ghost Stories. So we're going to put that. Anyway, that's a side project, nothing to do with modelling. But yeah, like I say, it was only a quickie tonight, just to give you an update on where I am with the Airfix horse, with the Airfix George Washington, whatever. And right, my commitment to you folks is we are going to get that Italeri 24 scale Jeep finished this week by hook or by crook. That is being completed, and I don't want to see that box in my workshop anymore. So, goodness me, that was a quick 45 minutes, but Christopher Joseph Buchholz has joined us. He says the most effective way to do it is to do it. Amelia Earhart on modelling, or maybe not on modelling. No, exactly. But that's the point. That's a very good point, Christopher. That yeah, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. And like I say, don't be put off if you think, no, I can't finish models these days, or I get to a stage where I can't finish models, or anything like that. Just get in there and build. It's most important. I'll tell you a story quickly, and this was I'll tell you a story very quickly, and I'm going to go and watch. I'm going to say wave goodbye to the Chris Chibnall era, thankfully. I've probably told this story before. A friend of mine I was at school with, Michael. His dad worked for Rolls-Royce and then British Aerospace. He worked on the development of Concorde and the Harrier. He was absolutely pin-sharp guy. And the one thing he was looking forward to was when he retired, he could spend more time with his model railway. He had a layout in his garden shed and everything. And he retired quite early. And then rapidly he deteriorated, because he wasn't in a work environment and he wasn't being stimulated with mental problems, when I say mental problems, with problems that needed sorting out, intellectual problems, physical problems that needed solving or whatever. Unfortunately, his mental and then his physical health sharply declined, to the point that he sadly was gone within about, I don't know what it was, probably less than a decade after he retired. Very sad, really quite tragic to see somebody who was just such a kind of an intellectual colossus suddenly losing it like that. And this is one of the things that they always say about all the people who worked at Bletchley Park, is that when they finished working there, they kept together as a social group. They kept doing crosswords, they kept doing puzzles, everything. They kept this operating. And so many of them are still around today, and they're all pushing their mid to late 90s. If not, they've pushed through to their hundreds now, and they're all still with us. Not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them are still with us. Statistically, it's a very interesting snapshot of people who kept their mental functions and their motor skills going. They might not be able to climb Ben Nevis, but they can still do a crossword, and that's the thing. This is a muscle. You've got to use it. So don't worry if you're not finishing models. Don't worry about that. Just build, get building, get this and this working, and that whole process. And it's better than nothing. Okay. Anyway, Sean Smith says link to Ghost Stories. Oh, it's just on Facebook, Sean. Sunday Night Ghost Stories. You'll find it. It's absolute nonsense. It really is. Probably double my viewership tonight too. Anyway, look, that's it for tonight, folks. We hopefully will be back midweek. That all depends what I'm doing on my week off. If we can't do Wednesday, what we'll do then is we'll do an interim show, probably on a Tuesday or something, or a Thursday. We'll find a way of doing a midweek show at some point. So, like I say, this is all a bit ad hoc tonight. And what I'll do is on the Facebook page, I'll do an update showing what happens, a photo update showing what happens with the super glue and just the whole thing of sanding it and whatnot. It's not rocket science. It just speeds up the process a bit more. So anyway, on that note, Jared Watkinson says, bring beer. Yeah, bring beer, most importantly. On that note, thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight. It's a very brief one. We will be back at some stage during the week. So until then, as always, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you soon. Bye.